you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I thank the Honourable Rotu Isikeli Tuiwaelevu for his question. Mr. Speaker, sir, as of 2019, Fiji is a party to the core 9 international human rights treaties of the United Nations, as well as several optional protocols that are part of the treaties. These include, for example, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, the Convention Against Torture, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, and so on. Mr. Speaker, sir, by ratifying these instruments, Fiji has assumed responsibility under international law for implementing the obligations under the respective treaties. Every treaty, Mr. Speaker, sir, requires Fiji to report periodically to each of the treaty bodies that are part of the conventions, and then participate in a public examination by the treaty bodies, which are typically situated in Geneva. The treaty body then makes recommendations which, as a states party, Fiji must consider implementing, and then subsequently provide progress reports to those bodies on the state of those implementation. Mr. Speaker, sir, in addition to treaty obligations, Fiji, as a states party and a member of the United Nations, participates also in the Universal Periodic Review, known as the UPR, conducted by the Human Rights Council, which again is situated in Geneva. This, Mr. Speaker, is a member state-driven peer review process under which every country's human rights record is reviewed every 4 or 5 years. Recommendations received during the UPR process are either formally accepted or rejected by the state being reviewed. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji completed its 3rd UPR review in November 2019, where the report showcased how the majority of the recommendations from the 2nd cycle were implemented. At the conclusion of the 3rd UPR, Fiji had received a total of 242 recommendations made by 97 states or countries that are part of the Human Rights Council. Of those 200 plus recommendations, Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji accepted 207 recommendations. As a result of the reviews and the recommendations, Fiji has reporting obligations which are outdated. For example, Mr. Speaker, sir, reports to the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination were required to be submitted by January or February 2016. That's not been reported. The initial report by Fiji to the Committee Against Torture was required to be submitted by April 2017. That is outdated. Fiji's initial reports to the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disability was due in July 2019. Again, we are in arrears. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, just as a further example, Fiji's 6th report to CEDAW, the Committee on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, was due in March 22, and we have not complied with our reporting obligations. These delays, Mr. Speaker, are a matter for concern, and they do highlight at the national level the need for a robust mechanism to ensure that we as a states party to these important international instruments and treaties, that we report on a timely and effective basis. As a result of these outdated reports, Mr. Speaker, sir, the United Nations has advocated that we establish a national mechanism for the implementation, reporting and follow-up of the treaties, in short known as NMIRF. The mechanism envisaged will be a permanent government structure tasked with interagency or interministerial coordination and engagement with international human rights mechanisms to ensure that we as a country with these obligations are able to comply with our reporting obligations and we do not experience further delays. Mr. Speaker, sir, following Cabinet's approval last month, the Fiji Human Rights Task Force was launched on Friday, the 30th of August this year. The purpose of the task force and its functions will include, for example, engaging and liaising with international human rights mechanisms, including the UN human rights treaty bodies, the Universal Periodic Review process, and the special procedures of the Human Rights Council, organizing and coordinating the preparation of Fiji's national reports to these international human rights mechanisms, including initial reports, periodic reports, the Common Core document, midterm reports and follow-up, responding to communications, decisions, country visits by special rapporteurs, follow-up questions, and so on. Mr. Speaker, sir, to ensure the effectiveness of the task force, it will comprise interagency representatives from different government ministries and agencies, including the Fiji Police Force, the Corrections Service, the Fiji Military, the Fiji Bureau of Statistics, and so on. This wide composition will enable comprehensive and coordinated action on a range of human rights issues across all sectors of government. The establishment of Fiji's Human Rights Task Force will demonstrate Fiji's commitment to implementing the 14 Universal Periodic Review recommendations that Fiji accepted in 2019. This is a significant milestone in our journey towards a more transparent, accountable, and rights-respecting society. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity to answer the question, and I thank the Honourable Member Ratu Isikeli Tuiwailelu for the question.